I think I inadvertently picked an extremely apt time to start highlighting all the recent cases in the cinema world of, as I call it, brand mooching, or a larger commercial mainstream release debuting in theaters or streaming, and all of these smaller piggyback pictures coming alongside on similar release windows maybe a little after, utilizing similar or explicitly parallel branding. This is probably one of the more overt cases, and there's been a couple. This is not an isolated case by any means. It's a growing phenomenon. Let's say for some recent examples, maybe in years past or very close to now, Jurassic Thunder, Cocaine Shark, Planet Dune. Now we have Moon Crash, aka, does Moonfall ring a bell? It's basically the same movie. Like, you got moon falling to Earth over here, and a part of the moon crashing to Earth over here. I'm giving you the gist of the plot. There is some variation to separate both releases as their own distinct things, but, I mean, this is probably the most explicit comparison I've ever seen. It's not the only one, like I said. There's a couple other examples I'll be getting to, but this is it's an explicit parallel. If you want a good baseline to judge this movie from, again, in its isolated position, because there is, like I said, some differentiation, this is the IMDb synopsis. A global steel company is working with an aerospace partner to extract lunar material. When a drilling accident causes a giant piece of the moon to break off, it goes on a collision course with Earth. Like I said, the moon is falling, or aka crashing. Same thing. Let's take a look at this. I mean, like I said, there is some originality in, I guess, the steel company extracting lunar material, and that's how the moon falls rather than an entity attacking, but it's basically the same thing. And why is it, by the way, all of these smaller pictures that utilize similar branding have some focus on oil drilling? Not oil drilling. I'm thinking of Jurassic Shark. It's like you got oil drilling there, we've got drilling the moon over here. It's like, why? And maybe it's not the only case, but it's weird. Anyway, Moon Crash. I'm not expecting anything too spectacular. It's currently sitting as of March 25th, 2023, on IMDb on a 2.5 out of 10 based on 417 ratings. That's not very spectacular, but film is subjective. Maybe this will be fine. I just can't ignore, like I said, the explicit branding. And on part of the Asylum, I need to judge more of their pictures. I was going to say perhaps it's a mainstay. I don't know exactly. Well, they've got a couple that fit this bill. I'll get to one that's even worse. Okay, here we go. Let's take a look at Moon Crash. Stupid. Like, be your own thing.
We've hit a major fault line. Shut down the drill. The debris shot out rapidly during the collapse.
How did they get away with that?
Headed straight for
It's like a Star Trek logo. I'm surprised CBS didn't do anything. Maybe they did, I don't know.
We are done here. Some of the faster moving moon fragments already impacting around the globe.
Some VFX, at least for me, seem fine, others not so much. Mainstream sound effects, I heard that one moment ago.
An EMP straight at the meteor.
We have to get to the solar power station.
They're gonna have me initiate a global defense using nuclear weapons.
Meteors just hit San Francisco.
15 minutes to impact.
I will say at least they're not being too subtle about that, even though, again, it might be very VFX heavy, we might be able to tell.
Home is about to be destroyed.
So Moonfall. I appreciate that when you say the moon is crashing, you make it look like it's crashing. There's meteors flying everywhere. Or debris, I guess. I try to be fair, like I always say with smaller films, and I consult the indie market pretty regularly, because I do find a lot of advantage in that scene in cinema. I've said before, by comparison to the larger commercial market, you sometimes see with indie films less limitation in artistry. But there's a couple cases where sometimes you look at certain films and you just can't ignore maybe grievance points. And while I'll forgive perhaps a lower budget here, but it's pretty obvious, even though at least the first part, like this pink lunar drill effect, like this looked fine to me. I think partly because maybe the organization of the image, it's a little easier to maintain the VFX there. In other places, like the debris falling, it looks like it was pasted in. Or copy and pasted, I should be more specific. It's not... okay. We all like disaster movies. I just can't ignore with this one. Again, it's like Moonfall on repeat. It's the same thing. Even though there's differentiation points, the visuals look the same. I'm not surprised they went with similar branding, but it's like, again, if you're going to put out a release like this, I want to speak to your credit fully, so be your own thing, rather than, oh, we're again like a piggyback picture and we're just using the same branding. It's stupid. It's funny. It's just stupid. And like I said, I'm a bit surprised that they got away with that logo on the side of the car. I mean, I guess there's no like Star Trek insignia, but it's the same thing. How did they get away with that? That's weird to me. I don't know. Like, it's too similar. I mean, you can say yes homages, but it's like, I'm surprised nobody dinged them on that at all. That made it into the final cut. That's surprising. Maybe it's because this film has a lower pull in terms of an audience reception. I mean, I don't know. But, yeah, you know, it's kind of middle of the road for me, I'd say, on a sci-fi film. I mean, these types of smaller disaster films or creature thrillers happen to be that most of the time. I mean, Moonfall, I liked it. I know not everybody did. But I humor a second film in that franchise, if you want to call it that. I mean, I think there's points to it where it could be warranted. I don't see much of a future for Moon Crash in that respect. Again, like I said, probably one of the most overt circumstances of brand mooching that I've ever seen. And there's certainly other examples to highlight, but this one's, this is pretty strong. Again, like I said, be your own thing. I want to speak to your credit fully. Even though, again, we have, a point of laughter we can elicit from this. What are your guys' thoughts of Moon Crash? I mean, not expecting many people are going to jump onto this one. Maybe you will. I don't know. Maybe I will at some point where I'm like, I don't have anything else to watch. Is it available on any Prime Video? You have to pay. What a shocker. Let me know your thoughts down below, whatever your perspective is, if you wish to disclose it. I don't know. It's like anybody can tell with this one. It sounds like Moonfall. You look at the release date. I didn't even mention that. This came out about 3 days before Moonfall debuted. So, like, even the release date, you're like, come on. It's very overt, the connection point you're making. And again, while homages are warranted, this is a bit of a ripoff, admittedly. I think anybody would agree. And while there may be some points of strength, I said, you know, the VFX are like 50-50 for me in terms of the realization. It's less than spectacular moon crashing movie, and I feel like, again, with Moonfall, it's just the lower budget version. Same thing, admittedly. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.